Now the next part. The next part, just like with any layer by layer Rubik's Cube, now that we've defined this, and again, just kind of study that and understand what I did and why I did it, we need to put in the middles here. There's only two middles that we need to place. Two edges, rather, that we need to place. This one and this one. So this one is obviously going to be the blue and black has to come here. This one is going to be the blue and white. So here's a blue and white one over here. And I'll tell you that the algorithm for this is exactly the same. And you have a choice now. You can either memorize the variation, if that's easier for you to do, or you can just think about it. Think about the algorithm of flipping this to here. Because that's actually what has to happen. Well, more likely in this case, this has to flip down to here. Blue to blue, and the white is going to be here to define these, to define this side is how we're defining this as a white stripe amongst a red middle. So drawing upon the algorithm to move this to here, let's use an example of a straight Rubik's Cube. Now, we all know this algorithm. I'm going to go through it. We just have to variate it by doing what I was talking about instead of a UI, like maybe a 3U or something like this. But as you recall, this algorithm on the left side to move from here to here is going to be UI, LI, U, L, U, F, UI, Fi. And that effectively moved that down to here. So how am I going to variate that for here? Well, you can memorize this algorithm, or you can just look at what I'm doing. So let's kind of do a little of both. I will post the algorithm, but basically what this is to move this to here is we start off the same, but I can't do a UI, right? So I'm going to start off by putting this to here. Instead of a UI, I've got to start off with a 3U. 1, 2, 3. So that's just like doing UI. Then I've got to do a LI, so we have 3U. Now I can't do an LI here, so I have to do a 3L because of these over here. So it was a 3U, then a 3L, 1, 2, 3, then a U. So U I can do, so just U, then a L, then another U, then we can do an F. Then instead of doing a UI, I have to do another 3U, 1, 2, 3U. Then instead of doing an F, I have to do, rather an FI, I have to do a 3F, 1, 2, 3. So the overall effect is I just put this in here. Now again, you can memorize that algorithm, but really if you just think about what you're doing, whatever you can't do, just invert it for a 3F on the other side. So it turns out this was placed over here. This was placed over here. So now I have to put the other blue in there. So in this case, this needs to move over here, and it's pretty much the same thing. Now, your particular configuration may be a little different. It just turns out that mine happened to have no arrows over here. But I kind of invite you to do what you need to do in order to variate the algorithm. So we'll stick with that. In order to move this here, we have to start off again with a UI, which I can't do, so it's going to be another 3U. So UI, then we do an LI, which will come here, but I can't, so it's going to be a 3L, 1, 2, 3. Then we need to do a U, which we can do, so U, and then an L, then U, then F, then UI, which will come here, and then Fi, but I can't move that, so 1, 2, 3, F. Okay, so just understand, now I didn't do the left-sided version, but really just put the 3s where you can't do the other ones. If you have a hard time with that, write it down, but anyway, what you end up with is you end up with the second layer, so the second layer is there. Now the last layer, mine just happens to have a circle here. It's exactly the same thing. Same algorithms, but we just substitute UIs for 3Us if need be. So the first step is I need to get my edges in, which means I need to get all of the white arrows up there. So white arrow, white arrow, white arrow, and it's exactly the same algorithm. It's FRU, RI, UI, FI. But in this case, it might be FRU, 3R, 3U, 3F. What we want to be careful of not doing is moving a black arrow into where a white arrow should be, as much as we can. So, I actually hesitate to give specific algorithms because your specific configuration may be a little different. It might not have ended up like this or like the rest. But anyway, what I'm going to want to do, I can't turn from an F here. I could do it from here, but I'm going to have a hard time turning from an R here. So why don't we do it from here? Because I can do an F move here, and I can do an R move here. So F, R, U. Then I can't do an RI, so 3R, 3U, 3F. That's my surrogate for RI, UI, FI, and that gives me an L formation over here. So let's move this into configuration where I can continue to do that, or I don't have to worry about, or I can do at least F moves and R moves and U moves just over here. So I put the L in configuration. When I do this modification again, I should have this, I should have the line here. So F, R, U, 3R, 3U, 3F, which is really another way of saying FI, RI, or UI, RI, FI. So there's my line. Do it again. F, R, U, 3R as my surrogate for RI, 3U as my surrogate for UI, and 3F as my surrogate for FI. And there you got it. We've got it. So now the next step, after you've gotten these here, is we want to place our upper cross, top cross. Well, this is where it needs to be. This obviously isn't. It's the same algorithm. RU, RIU, R2U, RI. Is that right? Yeah. RU, RIU, R2U, RI. Of course, making, instead of doing RIs or UIs, maybe doing 3Us or 3Rs. So again, let's get things set up. I've got whites, 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 so I can go like R, U, 3R, U, R, 2U, and instead of RI, 1, 2, 3. So, like any good algorithm, this stays the same. This is now in, and this is in, this is in. So we actually have our top cross, and this is looking a little more like what we want. Now we place the edges. This is done, again, exactly the same way. So let's see if there's any edges that are where they need to be. Now, pay close attention to the coloring scheme. It's not what you think, right? So this is blue, which is right. This is white, which is right, and red, which is right. So this is where it needs to be. How about here? Well, this isn't because this green has to be here, and this isn't right either. And you're not going to get parity in this case, so it doesn't matter. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to do that algorithm that flips these corners and keeps this the same with the variations. So just by way of review, this is a similar situation, and that algorithm, of course, is U, R, UI, Li, U, Ri, UI, L. In previous tutorials, I've not gone through that explicitly. I've assumed knowledge of how to solve that. This is the same algorithm, only with using 3 L's instead of Li should the need arise. So I'm going to have to do that here, but again, I got to be careful. As I'm turning this, I want to make sure I'm not turning a black one in here, so I'm not going to turn it from here, if this happened to be the right one. I like to turn it from here where I've got white, white, and either white or nothing at all, because that means it's a little less of that variation. So in this particular case, in order to keep this the same and rotate these around, it's going to be U, R, I can't do UI, right? So it's 3U, 1, 2, 3. And then Li, in this particular case I can do that, so Li, then U, Ri, UI, but I can't, so 1, 2, 3U, and then L. And in this case I can move that here. So, like any good algorithm, kept this fine, and these guys still need to be rotated. So this isn't where it needs to be. This is the only one that's where it needs to be. So same thing. U, R, 3U, 1, 2, 3, Li, U, Ri, 3U, 1, 2, 3, and L. All right, so let's see what we've got. This is where it needs to be. This is where it needs to be. And this is where it needs to be, is green, red, and black. So basically what we have is we have all of our corners are placed by just that little variation of that exact same algorithm. Now it's just a matter of rolling these in, and that's where we do the RI, DI, RD, RI, DI, RD, and then you just keep rotating it around. So again, setup is everything. What I want is I want a good RI and I want a good D. And when I have to go DI, which I can't, I'm just going to go 3D. Actually, if I have to do a D, which I can't, I'm going to go 3DI. So I'm just going to roll this in using this configuration. Now the problem here is I don't want to put a white into a black, because you can see if I move this down, I can't move it like this. I mean, I could variate it, but why do I want to have to do that? So I'm going to use a black one as the basis of comparison. And what you're going to inevitably have is two circle sides that are pure circles. So this one I can do the kind of rolling. So I'm going to go RI, DI, R, because this is a circle, D, but I can't, so 3DI, 2, 3. And then just keep doing that until that rolls in here. RI, DI, R, 3D, RI, DI, R, 3D, RI, DI, R, 3D. Now this is actually rolled in. This is where it needs to be, so now I just move on to the next one. Same thing, RI, DI, R, 3D, RI, DI, R, 3D, RI, DI, R, 3D, RI, DI, R, 3D, okay? This is now one, believe it or not, so just focus on when the red one makes its way up top. Turn this here, and I'll stop when this red is on the top. RI, DI, R, 3D, RI, DI, R, 3D. We've got this here, turn over here, and I think you got the picture. Same thing, RI, DI, R, 3D, RI, DI, R, 3D. Now we've got all these placed. Simply turn this to where it matches, and then do your final move, put it in, and you have solved your latch cube. Not a problem, right? So the biggest issue, of course, is find your way to getting the proper cross on the bottom, find your way to getting the greens, when it was time to do that, the green side here, with the two arrows on the side, making sure that there's no white arrows there, and then the rest is all just variation of Rubik's Cubes algorithms. No new algorithms are really needed for this. So give that a try. Don't be afraid of it. Conquer it, and let me know if there's anything further that wasn't clear with messages or comments, and we'll see if we can work through it. But this should do it. Good luck.